guys, welcome back to another interview with Jonathan Leitschuh.
Yes.
I nailed that one.
From Germany.
No, not from Germany, Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
Well,
but the name is from Germany.
Watertown, but Boston's where everybody's going to know from. So, yeah.
You can actually hear it on the way you say Boston, right? Yeah.
I grew up in Vermont.
Okay,
which is north of, it's, land of trees and,
And ski slopes.
And ski slopes. And I grew up on the verge of, I didn't live in the middle of nowhere, but I lived on the edge of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, well.
And you were into robotics.
Yes, I started my high school's robotics team when I was in my junior year.
So what do you do then? Robotics team. I see this like Robo Wars thing in my head.
No. It's high school robotics is 4 robots on a field. This is Vex Robotics, so there's a game usually like score these points on these goals. Build the best robot to do that. You've 20 seconds of autonomous, and then a minute and a half of driver control, and you're driving this robot around. And competitions all the way up to the world level. So both my junior year and senior year. So I started at my junior year, and then went for an entire year, competed, almost winning every single event.
Cool.
And the first event was terrible. We came and dropped it last. But the rest of this, and then and the last event, days before the World Championships, qualified for the World Championships, went to Florida, and we went to the World Championships both years, and got to meet teams from around the world, which was a lot of fun. So,
That's
and
cool.
Then I went to, I said I want to go get a degree in this, so I went to Worcester Polytechnic Institute, got a degree in robotics, and then said, I like this robotics thing, but I also love this programming thing, so I tossed on a computer science major, and
so double majored then.
Double majored, and
cool.
then have
ambitious.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, so most people at WPI get a double major in either robotics, electrical, robotics, mechanical, or robotics, computer science.
Yeah. And that's how you sort of went into the field of security, application security.
Yeah, I took a security class in college. Popped my first shell in a PHP-based application.
Of course, as you do.
Yeah, right, as you do. And I had a lot of fun. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And so I'd been interested in software security. I listened to Security Now by Steve Gibson for a long time.
SpinRite.
Yeah, SpinRite. Yeah. So Steve Gibson and Leo Laporte have been kind of like an educator in my career for many, many years.
Yeah.
And the first vulnerability that I found was actually an accident.
Yeah.
It was in the Gradle plugin portal, and it was for those of you that are familiar with dependency confusion.
Sure.
It was basically that, but I could induce it by uploading a package to the Gradle ecosystem that was one version higher than the official version of a package.
Oh.
And so if you were using wildcard versions in your dependencies, you would get my version instead of the intended version.
Okay. But did you commit? So it was like a mutability issue, or what?
It was a namespacing issue in their authorization. They weren't correctly validating that the namespaces were not being stepped on. And so,
cool.
Yeah, so I disclosed that vulnerability to them, and actually Google had beaten me to it by 10 days.
Aww.
But I weaponized it into something that was actually like, hey, this
usable.
is what usable. Yeah. Like this is, they said, here's this vulnerability, or there's this bug, and I'm like, no, it's a vulnerability. So, and then I basically found enough vulnerabilities in Gradle's infrastructure that they offered me a job eventually.
Oh, nice.
So,
it was better.
Yeah.
Just come join us and help us out.
Yeah. So
that's pretty cool.
I basically hacked. I'm not. I don't consider I'm a hacker insofar as I do things with systems that people don't expect. I'm not. I'm making this stuff up as I go. But basically hacked my way into my first job as a security person, and then.
Is there a better way of doing it? Like that's how you should do it, right?
Right.
It's pretty cool.
It's basically like I'm a software engineer turned security researcher. I know how software engineers build things that are potentially vulnerable.
And I guess that's like a pretty common background, I would say, in order to get into the line of work, and you will get a lot of domain knowledge for free.
Yep.
I guess so that makes sense. But today you talked about CodeQL.
CodeQL and Open Rewrite, and using static code analysis, not just in the static code analysis, but also using static code analysis to find and then automate the fixing of those security vulnerabilities at scale. So a lot of static code analysis tools find the vulnerabilities, but once you found the vulnerability, why stop at finding the dang thing? Why don't you just fix the whole thing, and just get it over with and done?
That makes a lot of sense, because I do only offensive work. I never fix anything. So it will always be, this is the problem, this is the line of code, bye. So it makes a lot of sense to have an ecosystem that actually can suggest fixes as well, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's like quite clever, I think, because
Yeah.
then you've both done the searching for vulnerabilities and
Quality, yeah.
you've done a great best effort of determining if it's not vulnerable. Like you stated, you look for the path, and you also do some sanity checks that
It's actually true.
There
Yeah.
isn't an obvious things which make it not vulnerable.
Right.
So that's one level of work, and then firing off all of these bulk generated commits or
Yes.
pull requests with a good description, and then dealing with all of the people problems.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a nice way of putting it. Yeah.
Yes. So it's an amalgamation of technical problem and more technical problems and then people problems. And so I don't claim to be an expert in any things, but I just know how to throw things together. And if I need something, I will buckle down and build it myself if I really need to. Like I had to rewrite control flow and data flow analysis from scratch. And I used CodeQL's data flow and control flow analysis. And so I'm like, well, it's not that complicated. I can probably build that. It was more complicated than I thought it was going to be.
Sure.
But, you use...
Fearless.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
say that a fearless approach.
Yeah.
So how hard can it be?
Yeah, right.
It's actually a good mantra to have.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then I had an intern, Sham Mehta, who is not with me anymore because he is back at school, and actually he got hired. So he was the fellowship intern at Human under me. He was recently hired by Modern to continue working on stuff. So it's very cool.
If Modern was one of those tool providers where you could look at several source codes at the same time.
So Modern is the company behind they are the primary maintainer of Open Rewrite, and then they also offer a SaaS offering to let you do the commercial application of Modern's SaaS is to buy into your company and use the recipes that they've written or that you write as your company to fix bugs, styling issues, you need to do a dependency upgrade and it involves rewriting a bunch of code. Like that's the kind of stuff that Modern handles, and I saw this technology and I see the corporate benefit, but I'm like, let's just use this technology, let's throw this as open source and fix, and it's the only one. Mend has a similar bit of technology that they're working on. It's in beta, but all their stuff is commercial and closed source, right? And so I'm like, Open Rewrite is open source. I can sit down, write the code, see the change, write the tests, and anybody can utilize my fix for free.
Yeah.
And sure, it gets sold to a corporate entity, it's something that gets fine, whatever, great. But I get to see the work get contributed back to open source and have a positive impact around the world.
That's good. That's really good. That's a good change.
Our company or organization mentioned that Humane.
Human is my employer. So Human is Dan was the co-founder of Human Security. And so the Dan Kaminsky Fellowship was created by Human to commemorate his memory, to support someone that was trying to do work that helps improve the security of the industry writ large, in doing some project that helps improve the security of the industry. And when I saw that, I had this idea and this proposal, and I threw it out there and said, hey, I've got this idea, and they accepted it. And so now I'm,
doing it.
I'm
That's
doing
really
it,
cool.
and talking about it too. So because I want to share this. It's not just that I did this work. I did this work. Cool, right? The bigger on top of this, the bigger part of it is, I did this, but so can you, right?
Sure.
This is something that is not you if you understand vulnerabilities, if you've seen the same vulnerability again and again and again, it's not infeasible for a security researcher that becomes aware of a vulnerability that's widespread for them to go and just eliminate it from the open source ecosystem, right? That's a lot of power that we don't realize we have, and I'm trying to evangelize that and let the security community know that we have this capability. Let's go use it.
Oh, it's pretty cool. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That must feel very good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a higher purpose thing, no?
Yeah.
And you get to do it as your day job. That's pretty cool.
Until January,
Yeah.
and then I've got to find another job, which I'm trying to find a place to land this project with a company. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. That makes
Or
sense.
an organization. So,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
one more Question on the human.
Yes.
So the basic idea is that do good, right?
So they the thing that they sell is bot mitigation. So they do bot mitigation, detecting fraud, abuse against your website,
anomaly, more or less. Like
anomaly detection, ad fraud sort of stuff. And so but they wanted to commemorate Dan's memory and having him been the founder, and so that's why they created the fellowship.
It's really awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. No, but it's like I like those kind of initiatives where it's like making internet a better place.
Yeah,
it's like a good credo.
Yeah, like you do once create this sort of security product, but we also...
No, but I admire the approach. Like there is a lot of security products that are, as you say, closed source, black box. Revenue is the most important thing. Here we do the exact opposite. We're sharing. We're building an ecosystem that everybody can learn from, which is really cool. I wish I could say that. I only break stuff and I never share the details, more or less. But with the client, this is like, you sleep better, I think. Because I feel, I identify a lot with what you said. Like, when you see a bug class, you get to know it.
Yeah.
And you see it over and over again. That's like the same thing when you do pen test. It's like, it's the same vector. It's the same injection point, just in a different place of the code. It's over and over again, same thing. You go back the next year, you find not the same, hopefully, but different vectors on the same topic, in the same domain, so you don't really learn anything. That's what feels like a Groundhog Day thing. So it's like, oh, now we're here again.
I'm gonna give you a midlife crisis with this next one.
Oh, no. I resigned. Jonathan made me resign.
Okay, so somebody did this. I don't remember the name, and I really wish I could find. I remember the name of the person that gave this talk. But there's this thing about security researchers. Security researchers are constantly creating things, but they're creating things with the intention of that thing getting destroyed, right? Whenever you write a POC, the intention of that proof of concept is that it'll never work again.
Yeah, that's
the goal.
100%
That's the goal,
correct.
right?
Yeah.
And so someone said to me, or someone in this, they said, if you do this job long enough, you will leave behind a bunch of projects that are no longer useful to they've done their work at that time, but that you've not built anything to leave behind.
Yeah. They will never see the day of light.
Well, they should short term, right? They saw the day of light to be relevant in the moment.
Yeah.
Right.
But hopefully not live a long life.
Right. That's the goal. Is you don't want them to live a long life, right? And so where can So where can we do something that leaves something behind that because people are going to keep writing these same vulnerabilities, right? Like
we see that
easy
now.
to shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah. Right.
The exploitation chains are arguably longer now, but it's the same issue.
Right. So how do we eliminate them so that the developers stop shooting themselves in the foot again and again and again? And so I think that trying to get these things into the wider open source community and get them into places where not only are we giving them the we go so far as not just to say here's the fit, here's the way to you got to check out this code, you got to try this project. No, here it is all the way to your project. Here's the pull request, right? Just merge this damn thing,
and then you're done.
Yeah, and you're done. And then on top of that, I would love to set. So one of the things that I'd like to do this week is all of the bulk pull request generation campaigns that I've done in the past have run and never been rerun, right? So they if something new comes up and the vulnerability reappears, it doesn't get fixed, right? I would like to complete that loop. I'm going to set up a GitHub action cron job that basically operates as a campaign that is just continuously every week going and checking out all the projects that Modern is aware of, running the zip slip fix, generating the pull requests, and so if there's anything new, it'll just get added, and we're good. And then from that point, all you have to do is make Modern aware of that project, and you'll start sweeping and cleaning.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you should and
then we're just adding more vulnerability. At that point, you're just adding more vulnerabilities to get fixed, right? It's
because you have a vulnerability, you write a generalized rule for detecting it, and so has there been any logic to which vulnerability you look for? It was just I found zip slip and I went with zip slip, or is there a specific reason why you picked 4 or 5 different vulnerabilities?
So temp directory hijacking I went after first because It was a good, like, it didn't need data flow analysis, didn't need control flow analysis. You could look at the chain really close together and see it. And so it was a good candidate for, I actually didn't write the recipe for that particular fix. It was written by Patrick Way from Modern to fix to fix that vulnerability. And so it was a good like demonstration of technology to make sure that it could do what I thought it could do. And then from there, I'm like, okay, but if I want to fix other vulnerabilities like partial path, I need data flow analysis. Like I can fix it for the unique, like I can fix it if it's all inline, but I can't fix it if it's bigger than just an inline call, right?
Sure.
If it spans multiple lines. And so that was, and then so zip slip was a natural progression from there because I looked at it and it was the function, the scope of the vulnerability was usually scoped to a single function. And data flow and control flow in its current form only supports a single procedure call. It doesn't support multiple procedure calls.
No, right.
And so I need to find vulnerabilities that are good candidates that can exist in that scope. Longer term, because we're going to build the technology. So like other organizations have built this technology. I've got to rebuild it in this infrastructure, right? Probably, hopefully, with a larger team. As we get further and further along, right, we can tackle more and more complicated vulnerabilities. Like I would love to tackle, if it's one that supports C support, I mentioned up on stage, memory corruption vulnerabilities. Like there's whole classes of memory corruption vulnerabilities across.
But then it sort of demands a little bit more of your
right.
actual,
Right.
validation.
And then on top of that, I would love to fix zips or SQL injection.
Sure.
Right, SQL injection. In order to fix that, though, you need to know: is this input coming from user-supplied data, or is it a static constant that may contain valid SQL that does need to be escaped?
And it needs to be flavor-specific as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So you just there is a it should be
Java,
but it should be
Python
doable.
Yeah.
But
You just need
it
more
is a more
technology.
complex problem to solve than just
Yes.
like a binary approach.
Yes. And zip slip was a high impact vulnerability.
Sure.
It leads to remote code execution
Sure.
in the worst case.
No,
Right?
it's a bad one. So.
But it was simple enough to fix it. You reduce the scope. So that's that. And so I'm looking for more vulnerabilities that have those similar characteristics, but are slightly more complicated to slowly build out the technology to get to that point. So
very interesting.
Right. I was talking to someone. Jumping backwards is also fine. Like I also was talking to someone about there's a bunch of regular expression DOS, right? ReDOS vulnerabilities.
Sure.
Yep.
That's a find and replace sort of fix. Because a lot you can't do like massive fixings of regular expression denial of service across the board because you'll end up. I was talking to this guy. He's like you'll end up with more complicated regular expressions if you try to automate it. But there are certain patterns that have shown up on Stack Overflow again and again and again and again.
The email verification.
Yeah,
right.
that's a good example.
Yeah, you can just go fix that, right? And that's not data flow analysis. That's not control flow analysis.
No,
that's find and replace.
Yeah, and it's a static.
Yeah, and regardless, it's still a perfect candidate for just go get rid of it.
Sure, and it's still a huge problem.
Yeah.
So it's
so you have used Open Rewrite for
for Java and regular expressions for
Yeah.
regular expressions for other things when
because I know for a specific company where they often coded in exactly the same way. I used checkstyle and just parser, and I knew that in general, if a variable had the same name, it was usually the same thing in their source code.
Yeah.
So I basically assumed that everywhere I see a variable with a specific name, I could guess that it was the same object, and so. But getting back to the point here, so.
Regex.
No. Like the Open Rewrite. Is this very Java specific, or does it handle several languages?
So currently it supports Java, Groovy, and then a bunch of data format languages like Terraform, XML, YAML, JSON. So if you have JSON files, you can make format preserving tree transformations on XML.
So Terraform should be more or less YAML with resource construction with the objects, right?
Terraform is HCon.
Okay, but it's okay.
So and then they're currently adding support for a language that is ubiquitous that nobody wants to write anymore. That's very very old.
C assembly? No.
COBOL.
COBOL. But it's actually pretty common anyway.
It's common, but nobody wants to write it anymore, and there's nobody wants
no.
to touch it because so they're adding COBOL support.
Yeah.
That's their current next thing. But then on top of that, they want to add more languages. But
I wonder what the incentive behind that one
there's
is.
company like you know, there's companies that say we have a lot of COBOL that we need we need
so
to,
they pay for the R&D maybe or something.
yeah. So but like it's they see the application of previous
Like
they use it for
Fortran
Java and Groovy and stuff like that. Like, oh my God, we have all this COBOL code that needs to get migrated or needs to get dependency updated, and we just never touched it because it's so old and nobody knows how to write it.
Yeah.
So if you can put in some predictable, like we've tested this rewrite recipe to know that it does the correct thing, the company's more likely to trust that.
Sure.
Jumping back to regular expression denial service, I guess you can parse a regular expression to detect if it's follows the known,
it's in deep water, seriously.
Known bad patterns.
Yes.
Yeah. But then again, what do you then you have to have an outcome. Like
yeah.
The
So
idea that's a really hard problem, right? Because you have to have a constant outcome of that. Like you have to know exactly what you're looking for, because you won't expand it, because you can't parse the regex, because that will be huge, right?
Yeah.
So that will break your thing.
No. So my question is, probably I have several questions, but my core question is, we can detect known bad expressions
statically,
like email verification or so.
Whatever.
And I guess then you could provide a hard-coded, prepared in advance
fix.
Less vulnerable version
based on the input you got previous.
Yes.
Yeah. But handling the general case of
bad regex.
It's impossible.
It's not possible. Yeah, it's not possible. But there's a lot of the bad regular expressions that are just those pre-canned ones, right? So like
that has to be the way.
It's like how there's only so far you're gonna win. Yeah. Right, and so you gotta. It's the practical versus the trying to be perfect. Don't let perfection be the enemy of good enough. Yeah. I mean, it's not good enough. But it's good enough for a lot of payloads like the people are gonna try are gonna be against those regular expressions that are commonly known to be vulnerable. And
every hard problems have multiple fixes, and none of the fixes will probably be the perfect one.
Correct.
So can't solve everything at once.
Yes.
Iteration, I think, is better. Better to actually make something than nothing.
Denial of service,
But there are a bunch of them.
When I was working with web pen testing
in the before time.
Long ago.
Yeah.
That was part of. I think almost every single first time I tested a system, that was one of the findings, which I had
good
many different vendors, and I think if I would have had access to the source code, I would suspect that the same regex which is on Stack Overflow is probably in all those code bases.
Sure, but that's sort of a problem that you sort of fix here, where you have bad known ones that you can.
My cases would usually closed source.
So I mean.
But in long term,
tell your company, here's a fix in open rewrite. Just go run this against all your source code,
and you won't have this problem. And that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
But circling back, because I think we should wrap up. Sorry. What do you have going on in your life? What should we check out more to know more about you? Do you want to plug something?
I don't know. I'm currently looking for a job.
Good.
I am. I'll be giving the same talk again at if anybody wants to, you've probably seen it live, but if you didn't see it live, you want to see it again, I'm giving this talk at the No Hat in Italy. Yep. I'm speaking at Code Blue in Japan. I'm speaking at the OWASP Global AppSec Conference in San Francisco, Rochester Security Summit in Rochester, New York. Maybe GitHub Universe. I'm a finalist, so I don't know whether or not.
See what happens.
Yeah,
that's
we'll
cool.
see what happens. So, I'm just happy to be here.
Who is trying to do something similar to what you're doing?
Yes, there's another company called Open Refactory that is trying to do this for Python.
Yep.
And Mend is trying to do this, but with a proprietary solution. And they took the approach of focusing on control flow and data flow first, and then later going for making sure that the formatting looks right, which, if only these two things could just come together in
Yeah,
an open source
and talk to
world,
each-
the
yeah.
whole thing would be solved, and like just merge them
Yeah.
together. But I don't know what the success rate will be on that. So it's
Yeah.
freaking closed source, open source. Yeah.
I have an alternative solution here. We remove all the white spaces from all programming languages,
Yes.
and we implement that the developer's editor decides how the code looks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then all of
Ooh,
this,
that's an interesting idea, but
all of this
Ooh.
beautify wars and the indentation wars and the tab versus spaces and that evil dude changed my space into a tab. That's not okay.
That will go away, you
Imagine
think?
all the graph in the
Maybe.
universe we could
I
go
can't change the universe, but I like that idea. But I can't change the universe. I'm not, that's not a fight I'm gonna die. That's not a hill I'm gonna die on.
No,
but
it's
yeah.
not the correct battlefield to run naked in, right?
No, yeah, right.
No. Well, with those words, I guess, Jonathan Leitschuh,
Yes.
thank you so much for being here with us today, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and presentation. It was
Thank you for
really
having
awesome.
me. It's been an honor. So, yeah.
It's
It's
very cool. Even if some others are doing it, it felt very unique. At least
Yeah.
I haven't.
Yeah.
No, I haven't heard
It's
any.
it's not common. It's really not common, and I'm trying to say let's do this. Let's do this together. So
Yeah, it's really nice.
yeah. Thank you all.
Thank you.